I'm Richard Perry,
And I'm Lucas Bolter.
and this is our senior project,
The Bike of a Lifetime.
Friends come home for Christmas and I'll dream each night of some version of you that I might not have, but I did not lose. Now your tire tracks and one pair of shoes, and I'm split in half, but that'll have to do.
On day one, Lucas and I woke up bright and early to go down to Harper's Ferry and explore the beauties of a town only 60 minutes from us.
After me and Richard got to Harper's Ferry, we went looking around, and this is the original location of John Brown's fort.
As many of you may know, John Brown's fort was a place where John Brown and his followers barricaded themselves during the final hours of their raid on October 16th, 17th, and 18th of 1859.
Yeah, dude. How small this is.
Can we go inside?
Being raided on by U.S. Marines, you gotta stay in here.
After this, we began to explore the rest of the town.
Is that a lockhouse?
Yeah. That's Lockhouse 33.
Large arsenal.
Yeah.
That's where the small
Like over there.
The small arsenal was.
And then that's where that's where
The superintendent office.
Oh, I see. All the way down there, yeah. This is sick. Yeah.
I'd stay there. You what?
After we finished visiting all the historical sites in Harper's Ferry, we truly began to be able to take in the beauty of this small town.
We learned how Meriwether Lewis arrived in Harper's Ferry on March 16th, 1803. He stayed there for a month, overseeing the production of arms, but also a collapsible iron boat frame. By walking around this history museum, we also learned how Harper's Ferry played a pivotal role in the Civil War, specifically in becoming a critical turning point of the Maryland campaign. We had witnessed this church, which had stayed standing during the Battle of Harper's Ferry because it waved the Union Jack flag. In summary, Harper's Ferry is home to a multitude of fascinating historical events. Just to name a few, the arrival of the first successful American railroad, John Brown's attack on slavery, the largest surrender of federal troops during the Civil War, and the education of formerly enslaved people in one of the earliest integrated schools in the United States, Storer.
There is so much preserved history only 60 minutes away from us. However, we still wanted to dive deeper into the history and community of Harper's Ferry.
While walking around this history museum, we actually met a very nice lady who told us about this woman who lived at the Towns Inn just across the street. Funny enough, the woman who lived in the Towns Inn, her name was Karen Townsend. So we walked across the street to the Towns Inn where we had our first interview. Why do you think it's important to preserve that history of Harper's Ferry and keep urging people to learn about it?
We really need to study what's happened in the past, I think, as part of our decisions about what to do in the present and future. Those who lived before our time did and how it's benefited us, or how it's hurt. Some people that have lived have been very harmful, but we can also learn from the bad examples. Just look at Harper's Ferry, it's the Civil War. So you see, when you are looking at the current situation, you realize that some of these same issues were being discussed in the past. And so it's really good to kind of try to search for the truth.
Yeah.
And then you see how movements start when you look at history, like the Civil Rights Movement, huge advocate of civil rights. Storer College was one of the first black colleges, maybe the first, and it was outstanding. And that was a first. That's here in Harper's Ferry. What you've probably heard about this morning, the Niagara movement was the foundation of the NAACP. So that we had not just the Civil War that commenced here, but the Civil Rights movement that commenced here. It's huge. You can walk around and see pictures and read things that people that lived here during that time thought about and talked about and wrote about. And when you're doing something like you're doing now, it's good for your health. It's good for your spiritual health, emotional, intellectual, social, physical, body, and then even fiscal, financially. So you have all those aspects of health, and you get it when you're doing projects like this. But when you're just growing, you're not addressing much of those. Spiritual, intellectual, social, emotional, physical, and fiscal health. So those are what you want to not forget. It's just exciting to see these young people grow. It's just the teacher in me. It's like teacher in 1969. I can't help it.
Oh my gosh.
So here I am, but I'm an innkeeper, and I'm still learning from my guests. I get the most interesting people like you two, that hikers and bicyclists and people from DC, people from all over the world. They come here and they see my books and they ask me questions, and so it's fun. I always pray for knowledge and wisdom and the truth, as opposed to ignorance, foolishness, and deception. History, from yesterday on back, is very important in that quest for knowledge and wisdom and truth. And so spending time here is a good use of time, money, whatever, good investment. You get a good return on investment, as I like to say. So that was a long answer, but that's why I think Harpers Ferry is important. It's why I think national parks are important. I think our parks are a treasure, and I don't want to take the chance that greedy capitalists are going to destroy all this to put something up. So I firmly support the national parks. This is my 19th year here. I'm 75 years old, and I've lived I'm from Texas, the Austin and Houston areas, and then from there I went and lived in Salzburg, Austria in 1993, 94, 95. And then from there I lived in DC. But after looking at all the places in the world, I think that geographically and historically, Harpers Ferry is a joy. This is my 19th year. And I just wish all students could come here and find out not just the fascination of history, but the beauty of the geography. There you go. And I thought Harpers Ferry was just a place where Georgetown students went into. I mean, I knew they had rivers and there was history, but I heard about the book John Brown thing that I thought, I just thought it was just another beautiful historical town like in Virginia and all over this area, and even on up north into New England. But then when I got here and saw the extent of the preservation and the real goal to protect and preserve this little village, and then of course the Appalachian Trail, the C&O Towpath, all those come together here. And we've got the Appalachian 12, Springer, Georgia to Tottenham, 2,200 miles, 200 steps from this building. The C&O Towpath goes from Georgetown in DC to Cumberland, Maryland, 184 miles, and it connects with the Great Allegheny Passage, and it goes to Pittsburgh. So you can literally walk along the towpath from DC to Pittsburgh, 335 miles. And that stuff is just compelling.
How important do you think it is that people learn the history of their own communities? And do you think that would engage them in their communities even more?
I certainly do. And I think all the way up through world history, you need it all. And not just Western civilization, but Eastern civilization, but you start locally. So my first day in Harpers Ferry, I was in the mayor's office using his phone all day long. And I thought, I think I'm going to like it here. Coming from D.C., 3 blocks from the U.S. Capitol, into a little village where they said, oh, just, take your time, it's fun. But I like things local. I guess that's it's been a great experience living here. My profession, by the way, is teaching. I started teaching 5th, 6th, and 8th grade in 1969, and then I got a master's degree in 1974 and started teaching teachers got a Doctor of Education degree in 1979 and started, I continued teaching teachers. But then in 1985, the fun started. I got certified to teach English to speakers of other languages.
Wow.
So since 1985, my students have been basically international business people and professionals at Salzburg International Preparatory School. That's why I was in Austria, 1993, 94, 95. Then I came back. I started working here. So you see, I have an international perspective.
Yeah.
And I have been dealing not with people that aren't educated and articulate. So I've learned so much from my students.
Yeah.
But my conclusion is that keep it local.
I think coming out here and truly walking around in a community like this is like not only is good for learning, but it's also good for, you know, staying present in the world and
Absolutely.
learning more about.
And
Yeah.
that's why I want to promote this and keep
Yeah.
it old-fashioned. Because you've been through the living history, the village
Yeah.
down
Yeah,
there,
that's
where
awesome.
the tavern and the boarding house, everything's a museum. People walk to my inn and they say, "Is this a real inn or is it a museum?" Because I've tried so much, the baskets and everything, to keep
Yeah.
it very authentic, so that it looks like it's just a part of that preserved
Yeah. It
really
1850
does.
village.
Yeah.
That's kind of my thing.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. No,
Thank
I
you so
mean,
much.
This has
Yeah.
been
My pleasure.
fantastic. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for
Yeah.
taking the time
Well,
to
thank
talk
you
to
for
us. And
I appreciate the opportunity.
yeah.
Conducting this interview taught us not only the importance of learning the history of the communities around us, but the history of our own communities. After this, Lucas and I were done in Harpers Ferry, and we began to go on our journey to Brunswick.
Yeah, you used to talk about getting even further south, somewhere where the summer lasted all year round. Probably got a big old diamond on your hand right now, maybe a baby or a couple by now. Long driveway to a big white house. But I wonder when you're drinking if you find yourself thinking about that boy from East Tennessee. And I know we both knew better, but we still said forever. And that was 7 summers ago in Southern Comfort. Were we dumb or just younger? Who knows? Back then you used to love the river and sipping on a sixer with me. Does it ever make you sad to know that was 7 summers ago? Yeah, I bet your daddy's so proud of how his little girl turned out. Think she dies a bullet of a good old boy like me. Cause I still go drinking, same friends on Friday. Bought a few acres, couple roads off the highway. Guess you never saw things my way anyway. But I wonder when you're drinking if you find yourself thinking about that boy from East Tennessee. And I know we both knew better, but we still said forever. And that was 7 summers ago in Southern Comfort. Were we dumb or just younger? Who knows? Back then you used to love the river and sipping on a sixer with me. Does it ever make you sad to know that was 7 summers ago? 7 summers ago. 7 summers ago.
Made it to the hotel room. I'm gonna go out to get dinner somewhere nice, probably somewhere in Brunswick. I'm excited. I need to take a shower. I've got mud all over me. Yesterday's bike ride was supposed to be, I think, 50 minutes total. I didn't account for the bike ride to the hotel, so it ended up being an hour and 15 minutes. We're gonna go meet up with Richard now in Brunswick. I gotta head over from the hotel. There's a nice trail though, so yeah.
Oh, baby. I hate to go.
Soon after arriving to Brunswick, Lucas and I made our way toward the library. When we got there, they told us the librarian we were supposed to interview wasn't ready yet. So in the meantime, we got up and explored the rest of the library.
Get this book back.
We learned more about Asbury United Methodist Church when we explored the back of the library, specifically how Francis Scott Key was even a member of this church. We also learned how this church became a center of activity for the Black community of Frederick County. The basement of the church was used by the city's teenagers to play organized basketball because they weren't allowed to play at the local high schools or the YMCA. The Frederick County branch of the NAACP also held meetings here. After this, we went to conduct our next interview.
Why do you think it's important to preserve the history of Brunswick and keep learning about it?
Sure. So I guess because Brunswick is an old community, especially, so I'm from Minnesota originally, so like the buildings and places are not that old compared to over here on the East Coast where things are like very old. And where I live now is on the other side of the Virginia line. My kids go to school in Waterford, which is a village that was founded in 1733. The sign says, yeah, and they go to school in a modern school building, but near a old stone schoolhouse and mill, like, you know, so it's I've been, since I moved to this area, I've been thinking a lot about history. And here in Brunswick, the fact that it was such a vibrant, thriving place because of the railroad, and then once the railroad industry left, people still were here and families still stayed, but some of that, you know, the jobs kind of left or changed, but there have been people here the whole time, and the buildings have been here the whole time, and so it's interesting to see how they've changed over time, and now that the area is really growing again, it's really interesting to learn about. So I think it's important because place really shapes our lives and community, and so the place has been here and some of the structures have been here, but it also has been changing.
Yeah. No, I agree, and it's also what we found interesting is that we live in Virginia, so it's Northern Virginia, so it's only 60-minute drive, and I feel like a lot of the time, you know, we're on our phones, we're not really, you know, paying attention to these places that are so close and so cool to visit. But I guess my second question would be, like, how do you find that beauty, or kind of like that hidden beauty of places like this?
So history is not something that I'm naturally interested in. I'm more interested in people. So what I find interesting are the people and the stories. So people who say, I grew up here, or I remember this, or I did this. But I've had a way of always being surrounded by people who love history. So for me, it's when people can tell me the stories of the actual people, when I can see photographs of the people who were here and did that, and I can learn more about them. When it's dates and just, you know, like for me, I just can't hold on to that information. But so when I have people in my life who can give me kind of the Spark Notes version of the highlights of this is what really happened, you know, that is really interesting and engaging to me.
Yeah.
But on my own, I don't research a place. I don't really feel a call to know. But when people can tell me about their family or what they heard, that is much more interesting to me.
Talking to people and searching for interactions with people rather than, you know, kind of searching out the history itself, I feel like that probably has given you a lot more connections and fun connections to have, and, you know, all that.
Well, and as a storyteller, like I'm a librarian,
Yeah.
Stories are really important to me, and so I think that there is that part too. But history, having it rooted in a place and a time is really interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so if you had to choose one specific site in Brunswick that you have to say is your favorite, what would you say?
Ooh,
would you say?
good question. So I guess the thing that just comes first to mind is the this boat ramp area along the towpath and Cieno Canal, just because it's this it's the parking lot to the MARC train, so it connects to DC, it connects to Ohio. It's a place that I go with my family. We go running there, we go biking there. You can get into the water there on kayaks, so it's beautiful. And just knowing that people for hundreds and hundreds of years have been coming here to see the river, to enjoy the river, to walk these trails, or it's nice. So I think it's just the most iconic part of it, and of course it's also right next to the railroad. And learning about how the goods were transported down these locks and how that worked was really interesting to me. And I'm like, I don't know, it's just a pile of bricks. How can that be? But it's fun, again, hearing people who grew up here and know about it and how it's been used over time.
Yeah.
Something that makes the history here unique is that we have that record collection combined with all of the people and families who have lived in Old Brunswick for so long. And how the railroad industry has been kind of a through line through all of that too.
Yeah.
So let's take it.
After this interview, we took one final look around the town of Brunswick and noticed even more this time. Whether it be pictures detailing Old Brunswick or even a tank gifted to the citizens of Brunswick for giving up their cannon for scrap parts during World War II, this place was jam-packed with historical wonders. After this, I made my way to Point of Rocks while Lucas continued the bike.
Hey shady baby, I'm hot, light up a prodigal son. Big up Bartolini, meeny, money, mo, and flower, you're the chosen one. Well, your left hand's free, and your right hand grip, with another left hand watches right and slip. Swartz is gone. Single action on me. Well, your left hand's free and your right hand grip, with another left hand watches right and slip. Swartz is gone. N-E-O-O-M-G-G Whiz girl, you're the one for me. He disagrees. Speak.
Anyway, this is the Potokin Aqueduct. It was used in 1834. This is what it looks like, or it's supposed to look like. But as you can see, there was so much rain yesterday and the day before that the aqueduct is essentially mostly covered. Now if I point this the other way, the river is flooded. Yeah.
This is real flooded.
You want to go to the bathroom?
I'm heading back to Brunswick. where Richard's gonna pick me up in his truck and we're just gonna drive the flooded section down. I have to call White's Ferry to see if it's flooded down there. But yeah, Richard's gonna pick me up in the truck. So yeah.
Ain't shady, baby, I'm hot like the prodigal son. Big up Bartolini, meeny, money, mo, and flower, you're the chosen one. Well, your left hand's free. Well, my 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 left hand's free. Oh, no.
We're at this thing again. So I think that was all the biking we can do for day 2. Because it's the canal, the Sino Canal, like towpath is fully like, it's fully flooded. It's flooded for miles down that way. I was looking at it on maps and calling places along the canal. And they all said they were closed because their places are flooded, like White's Ferry is completely flooded. So Richard's picking me up, same place I started in Brunswick, and yeah.
After this, my parents and I drove back to Brunswick to pick up Lucas and take him home. We went back out the next day to Bethesda to go to Lockhouse 22 and start Lucas's ride from there. Fun fact, Grover Cleveland used to come to this lockhouse to get away and go fishing.
Day 3.
Well, my buckle makes impressions on the inside of her thigh. There are little feathered Indians where we tussle through the night. If I'd known she was religious, then I wouldn't have came stoned to the house of such an angel who fucked up to get back home. Looking over West Virginia, smoking spirits on the roof. She asked, ain't anybody told you that them things are bad for you? I said, many folks have warned me. There's been several people try, but up till now there ain't been nothing that I couldn't leave behind. Hold me close, my dear. Sing your whispering song softly in my ear, and I will sing along. Honey, tell me how your love runs true, and how I can always count on you. Be there when the bullets fly. I'd run across the river just to hold you tonight. Well, my heart is sweating bullets from the circles it has raced, like a little feathered Indian calling out the clouds for rain. I go running through the thicket, I go careless through the thorns, just to hold her for a minute, though it leave me wanting more. Hold me close, my dear. Sing your whispering song across the river just to hold you tonight.
A lot of bumps along the road, but we made it. So